It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You could find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting if you contact me through my email, oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. We're back today for a third time with William Hamilton, who's the president and founder of Inslaw Software, the PROMIS software that became famous, I guess, with the death of Danny Casolaro, an independent journalist, who called it the octopus because it involves so many different tentacles all over the world. And basically, there was a backdoor placed in this software. It was sold all over the world to different case management prosecutors' offices and police departments, intelligence departments around the world, and the U.S. NSA and CIA were able to get into a backdoor and collect information, see wire transfers all over the world, and ultimately use that information for blackmail and compromising even U.S. officials and people around the world, man. Just, get some blackmail dirt on these guys and control them. So we have here today exclusively William Hamilton, who is at the center of this story. This is the guy. So don't tell me to go read a book. I got the guy. I'm talking to the guy the book is about. So thank you very much. And I got the guy, William Hamilton. Mr. Hamilton, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you.
You have no idea. All week long, I'm telling people, listen, I'm going to be talking to William Hamilton. Do you have any questions for him? And I go, Ed, try and get this author on the show. I said, author, I got the guy. Okay. So here we are with William Hamilton. He has never done a radio interview before. Let's see. Let's start with this. This is what I was thinking of. Are there any books out there that you would recommend people go look to, or articles? Or are there any articles or books that you would tell people to stay away from?
Well, the maiden issue of Wired magazine had an excellent article on the Inslaw affair by a reporter named Richard Fricker, and it was one of the best ever written on the Inslaw affair. Very thorough job, and I would recommend that. And then he did another update article in a different publication later, a year or two later, and they're both excellent. And so he is no longer alive, but he was a very competent investigative reporter.
Any publications, movies, anything out there, documentaries you tell people to stay away from?
No. Okay. There have been recent articles in a publication called Covert Action Magazine that are pretty good.
Sure.
On the Inslaw affair, and I can't think of any bad article that it was written. I'm sure there's some that are much better than others, but no one has tried to discredit anything that I can think of.
Gotcha. Now, any misinformation out there that you'd like to correct? Speculation out there that you know is wrong?
No, it's a very, as you've pointed out yourself just now, unbelievably pervasive situation in the world, and the PROMIS software.
All right.
And because it was extremely adaptable, and was engineered by Inslaw to be easily adaptable, because we realized unless we engineered it that way, as good as the software might have been, it wouldn't get used, because adapting it from one customer to another, it takes too much time and work. And so we developed a special subsystem to PROMIS that allowed the new user to automatically make the changes to fit his or her needs, and didn't have to go through the laborious task of testing and debugging. The subsystem would do all of that stuff, all that grunt work for him, and that's what made it so easy to adapt it, even though we did not have this in mind, to adapt it from prosecutors' offices and trial courts and appellate courts to intelligence agencies and law enforcement agencies and major commercial banks throughout the world.
Is there a commercially available version of the software today that you profit from?
No.
Gotcha.
I mean, we do have still customers we support, so I should be careful how I answer that. We have governments using our software legally, and we support them.
Gotcha. Okay, let's see. What about, how does the October surprise fit into this story?
Well, the allegation was that Earl Bryan, who was a physician and venture capitalist, was instrumental in bribing people in Iran to delay the release of the 52 American hostages long enough that Reagan could defeat Jimmy Carter and in the election by depicting Carter as feckless when it comes to national security problems. And that's the allegation. And when Earl Bryan was Secretary of Health and Welfare in California, when he left that job under Reagan, he sought his fortune in Iran under the Shah. So he had a connection to Iran. And the allegations are at least plausible. They're not implausible, you know. And Earl Bryan was a close friend of Edwin Meese, who was at one point, as you know, the Attorney General. And Bryan had a checkered career as Secretary of Health and Welfare. He got accused of wrongdoing with regards to computer-related records of the California governorship. And so the fact that he might get caught up in something like this is not entirely implausible, you know.
Gotcha. What do you know about a company called Systematics?
It was its primary owner was Jackson Stevens, a billionaire in Arkansas. And the company became the largest bank software company in the United States. And it was located in Little Rock, Arkansas. That's kind of surprising. If it were located in New York City or Dallas or Los Angeles, that would, for an application software product for banks, that would at least look plausible. Little Rock is not a place you'd expect to find the leading bank software company in the world. And Jackson Stevens was a classmate of Jimmy Carter at the Naval Academy. And Admiral Stansfield Turner was also in the same class. He was the CIA director under Carter. And the CIA director, Stansfield Turner, and Jackson Stevens and Jimmy Carter evidently began the process of using the PROMIS software in the Carter administration. Something I did not know for years, that it started that early. I thought it started under Reagan, but it started under Jimmy Carter's administration. And in fact, BCCI attempted to take over a bank in Washington that was later better known as First American Bank, but at the time it was called Financial General Bank Shares. And they tried to take them over, and Financial General Bank Shares sued them in federal district court in Washington for tortious interference in their business, sued BCCI and Jackson Stevens and Systematics, because the lawsuit says not only did they try to take us over, but they tried to force us to get rid of our computer software at the bank. The bank was called Financial General Bank Shares, and replace it with software being marketed by Systematics in Little Rock. That's PROMIS. And it's very unusual to have a situation where you're trying to force somebody to get rid of their existing software and go to another software that they had no interest in, you know.
Yeah.
But that fits the Inslaw affair, and the so that is, and then the BCCI became very close to Jimmy Carter as president and provided him, for his charity work, access to a jet airplane to take him around the world.
Oh, really?
All of this is all public information, and it all makes a little bit more sense, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Oh, my goodness. My goodness. What about Vince Foster and his connection? He had a connection to, some say that he was the off-the-record attorney for Systematics. And there were some notes left behind by Casolaro that perhaps mentioned Webster Hubbell and Hillary Clinton, Vince Foster?
Oh, yeah. Well, that lawsuit I told you about, where Financial General Bank Shares brought a lawsuit against Systematics and Jackson Stevens and BCCI.
Yeah.
The lawyers who represented Systematics in that lawsuit, the defense lawyers, were Hillary Rodham Clinton and Webster Hubbell and Vince Foster.
Really?
From the Rose Law Firm in Little Rock. That's all of them. You can find, if you look up Financial General, Google it, Financial General Bank Shares lawsuit against BCCI and Jackson Stevens and Systematics. You can find a lot of what I'm telling you.
So then you're convinced, because my friends who were Hugh Turley and Mr. Knowles, who passed away recently, were skeptical about the connection between the Casolaro and his notes regarding Webster Hubbell and Vince Foster and stuff like that. But you're convinced of that?
Oh no, I think it's pretty obvious.
Okay.
And then there was a secretary to Vince Foster who I had contact with. I can't even think of her name anymore. White House secretary to Vince Foster. And she told me that Webster Hubbell sent a document about Inslaw to Webster Hubbell. And she was his secretary in the White House, and she knew about it. And I can't remember all the details about that anymore, but the connection was pretty well established between them on PROMIS and INSLAW.
Fascinating. So, yeah, that goes well beyond those little handwritten scratch notes left behind by Casolaro. Yeah. Who notified you of Casolaro's death? How did you find out?
One of his friends, a woman, called me and told me, and I can't even tell you the name of the person anymore, but that's what happened. It was something I did not know well, but I had contact with because of Danny Casolaro.
Gotcha. Now, and Dr. Henry Lee at one point was brought in to do like an autopsy or something, some kind of type. Well, not an autopsy wouldn't be, but some type of crime scene investigation with the.
Yeah, right.
Who brought him
in? Who did that? I assume the authorities in Martinsburg, West Virginia, because there was a lot of skepticism about whether he committed suicide, you know.
Right.
As there should have been, you know.
So he was brought in not by the family, but by law enforcement brought him in.
It could have been pressure from the family, but I don't remember anymore.
Gotcha.
You know.
Gotcha. What do you make? I saw some notes in Wikipedia about Danny Casolaro that he was